Panelists. Welcome, panelists. So our goal for today is we do have some questions for you, and each one of you are welcome to answer those questions. And audience, if you do have any question, please list the items in the chat so our facilitator will be able to ask our panels. Okay. So one of the questions that I have over here is just to get to know everybody is why don't you tell us about yourself, your journey through your nursing career, and maybe tell us a little bit about your family, your hometown, and the colleges you attended. And again, and how did you started being a nurse as part of your career? So we can start with Adrian, since we went go ahead and started your introduction.
All right, thank you. Can everybody hear me? Yes, okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for the intro. And I'm really, first of all, honored to be here. And having known Sandra Diaz personally, it just fills my spirit and it fills my heart to know that we're here honoring her. And I know she's here with us in the spirit. So I just want to thank everybody for putting this together. So it's a great feeling. Yes, my name is Adriana Espinosa. I'm born and raised here in San Jose, California. I actually always like to think of having sort of come into the nursing career in the non-traditional route. Growing up, I wanted to go into the medical field. Wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, but growing up, you typically always hear, doctor, doctor. So I thought that's the only route I could go to help people. But as I started to, pursue my education in undergrad at San Jose State initially, I did, take my classes in sciences, etc., and ended up minoring in the health sciences, which kind of took me into a direction of public health. And I ended up, getting my master's of public health and working in community health for about 7 to 8 years. And I loved it. And I loved it. But I felt like something was missing. I felt like something just wasn't quite, fulfilling me yet at this point in life. And during this time, I started working with a lot of school nurses and nurse practitioners. And I had nurses and the different roles, but I had never really known the role of a nurse practitioner and in primary care and just the different settings, specifically in school-based care where I was working at. And that just really opened up my eyes. And I said, wow, I can actually work in, establishing a relationship with patients in primary care and actually being able to work in a community, because I've always been a person that enjoys working with diverse communities and have always committed myself to working for nonprofit or federally qualified health centers. And that's when it kind of just took me into that direction. I finally decided, okay, let's do this. Let's take the plunge. The missing link that I had. And fortunately, I was able to apply and was accepted to UCSF, where I did all my nursing training, specifically as a family nurse practitioner. So it was something that I don't regret, something that I love and I'm passionate about. Ironically, I think things happen for a reason, and to think about how many of us have had to go through this pandemic and the timing, you do have to take a moment sometimes to step back and just be thankful to the power above for allowing us to do what we can for our communities and to keep us safe. This has been a very trying time, I think, for a lot of us, but I am very thankful, even if I'm burnt out at times and I might complain here and there. I have to remind myself of the reasons of why I came into this field and why I do it. And coming from humble parents, as they mentioned in the introduction, came as farm workers, always instilled in me the importance of an education, and they've always been so supportive of me. So I really thank them, my foundation with my family and just my village of my family and friends, and people like Sandra Diaz, who have always, rooted for me and cheered me on and checked in on me and reminded me that I have a place in nursing and that, it's my calling, and I'm very thankful. And also to remind myself to pay it forward. I think that's something that I will always hold valuable in my trajectory. I have a lot of mentees. I think I have a few on tonight, and just so a quick shout out to them. But I think there's nothing more beautiful than paying it forward and being able to share just the gift of advice and of support, because I know that it took a village to get me to where I'm at, and I hope to continue to do that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. I guess I can pick Amelia if you want to follow up with that.
Get off mute. Okay. First, thank you so much for, let's say, just allowing me to be a part of this, along with the other panelists who are just such tremendous has such presence. I want to acknowledge something in the chat. Karina and Gerardo said their daughter passed their NCLEX, so excellent. As someone who works with students at Anza, even in my current capacity, we always celebrate student milestones and every achievement that they manage. Personally, I came to nursing probably a little bit later than lots of other people. I graduated high school in a fairly small town. I was the first person to go to college in my family. And served about 9 years in the military and had some medical training there. But at the time, it didn't necessarily transfer. So when I got out, I also got a public health degree and did that for a number of years and worked in EMS as an EMT. And I really enjoyed that. And it was a very specific call that actually, and by call, I mean very specific patient interaction that actually pushed me into nursing. And you know, that continued growth in your learning process is so important, and understanding in whatever path you choose, there's always a beginning, middle, and continuum of learning. And it was just a particular event where I decided I need to know more. I need to have more education. I need to have more autonomy. I need to have more power with my patients. And the way to do that is to seek the next opportunity and seek more education. So I was given the opportunity to do that here at Anza, which, by the way, is an award-winning program. It's excellent. And whatever program you all look into and whatever advanced education, just really look into it and seek the validity of that program. There are a number of excellent examples here of people here. And I finished my nursing program in 2014, started at school health, which I just encourage you in your continuum of learning and your self-growth to be open to possibilities as they arise. There's not only one way in nursing, there's many, many paths. And I really enjoyed the campus atmosphere and college health and the specific kind of what we do. And currently pursuing a master's degree in emergency management. And as we had these measles outbreaks, and of course now COVID, and campus health and that emergent type of atmosphere is a developing forum. So I hope to be of better use to students and service to them as we move on. And I really support you all and will serve as a resource to whatever possibility I can, as far as maybe some alternate careers or encouraging you to find your feet in whatever nursing path or medical path suits you. And yeah, I'm here. Let me know. Thanks.
That's excellent. Thank you for sharing your background. I'll go ahead and put Selenia in our spotlight here.
Hi, my name is Selenia Cruz, and I'm a clinical nurse in the Department of Labor and Delivery. My nursing career, I guess I always knew that I wanted to do something in the health field when I was young. And the reason for that being is my dad was diagnosed with cancer when I was really young. And he unfortunately passed away when I was 15. But throughout that whole time, the nurses and the doctors were really helpful. He died at home, and so we did a lot of hospice care at home with my dad as well. So I learned kind of how to do a lot of nursing tasks through life experience when I was really young. And then because he passed away, we're low income. I'm actually the first one in my family to go to college. I actually dropped out of high school and I started working full time, but was able to get my credits and graduated high school. And I went to community college and I was on my path to going to medical school. And I had really good grades and was doing just fine. And then I got pregnant at the age really young. I was 20 when I had my first daughter. So I came to the decision where I was like, okay, do I want to go to medical school? Because I was only one semester away from applying and had amazing grades. Or do I want to be a part of my daughter's life? And so I made the decision, I'm going to apply for nursing school. I found that I was pregnant in January. Nursing applications were due March 1st, and I was due in August. So I did a crazy thing, and I was like, I have all the prerequisites. I applied for nursing school. I got accepted. I had my daughter August 16th, and then I started nursing school August 21st. I have no idea how I did it, but I did it. It was hard. And I'm still with my husband today. We've been married for a really long time now. We have two beautiful daughters. I can't imagine doing any other career. I think that it was kind of fate that I became a nurse, because I feel like a lot of the times the people who made the most impact in my life were always the nurses, um, that were helping me when I was younger deal with, losing my dad, doing the care at home with my mother. And then when I was actually in labor, I delivered at Valley Medical Center. I went to nursing school at San Jose State. And I remember telling the nurse, I got accepted into nursing school. And she really motivated me and was just like, you can do it, you do this. She coached me through my labor. And then when I had my baby, I was like, I want to be a labor and delivery nurse. This is what I want to do. This is my calling. I was so afraid of being a mom and afraid of taking care of a newborn. It was like a baby having a baby is what I felt like. Didn't really know what we were doing. We had a public health nurse that would come and visit us for like every week for like about a month and make sure that we were okay, me and my boyfriend, because we were young. But we did fine, and I got through it. And I guess I'd just say, know what your resources are, know what your goals are, don't let yourself down, and just keep on trying. When I graduated nursing school, I took my NCLEX, I passed. It was during the time when there were no jobs anywhere, in 2010, but I got hired into the new grad program at Stanford, started labor and delivery there. And I've been there ever since. I was part of the high risk obstetrics team there as well. So I was one of those fancy nurses that gets in the helicopter and the ambulance to go pick up the patients. Did that for about 5 years. And then now I've moved into teaching the fetal monitoring classes, and I still work on the unit as well. The thing with me is I always love patient care. Like I try to do other things and I was like, you know what? I just want to be at the bedside. I absolutely love it. And I love mentoring. Like a lot of the young nurses or people that I hear are going into nursing. I'm like, you can do it. Look, listen to me. I did it. I don't know how, but if you have the drive, you're going to find scholarships. You're going to find people that are going to help you, and just don't give up. But that's kind of where I am and what I did, my story.
What a great advice, Alenia, for our new students coming on board to be in this nursing field. I appreciate your experiences and your specialties sharing that to us. Thank you. I'm going to put Edward now on the spotlight to tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Edward, or Eddie, as everyone would get. The way how I got Eddie was when I was actually in nursing school. So when I was there in nursing, they were like, Edward sounds like a doctor. Ed sounds too serious. How about Eddie? So that's how Eddie became about when I started nursing school. So hi, everyone. I'm also the Anza quarter 5 instructor, as well as the clinical instructor. So it's very nice to be a part of you guys. And hopefully I'll see you all one day, whoever wants to be a nurse. So actually here I started in Anza back in 2000 for undergrad in computer science and business management. I always wanted management experience. So I went to Fry's Electronics, everyone went there, went to operations manager, and then my company shut down. And of course, my mom being mom saying, oh, you should probably become a nurse. And then what happened was my brother, unfortunately, got sick. He got stage 4 lung cancer. And he told me, you're always taking care of our family and ourselves and everyone else. You should become a nurse because you're super caring. Why not do that? And I was like, okay. The reason why I wanted to become a nurse is just what Adrian said. I wanted to pay it forward and give it back to other people, which is my drive to be an instructor today. Can you imagine me? I was actually a person who struggled with nursing school. I always had the bottom grades. I failed my LVN nursing program twice. I failed the NCLEX 3 times because also my family is going through a whole bunch of issues with health, homeless almost 3 times. And then my brother passed away from all of that. But I had to take a step back. Remember, even though we are super overwhelmed, I have to remember that I have to be kind to myself. I have to ask for help. I have to remember that it's okay to ask for help, and I have to refocus and re-strategize. And that's what helped me pass my NCLEX, and that's what helped me move on to become an RN. So started off as a CNA at a long-term care facility, then being an LVN at the VA hospital and a SNF, and then finally became an RN. Joined UCSF as their new grad program. And then all of a sudden one day, hey, Eddie, you're taking the first COVID patient. What? Excuse me? I'm gonna be the first COVID patient. Okay. Mom, I love you. I'm not gonna see you for 2 weeks, but just in case, I just want to say I love you. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It actually ended up being the most easiest patient in the world. I only had to go there 4 times. So, long story short, be super awesome to yourselves. My biggest advice, be kind to yourself. Have lots of empathy. Have integrity. Always do the right thing, even when nobody's watching. The reason why we became nurses or to begin with, or why, is because if I was in that patient's shoes, what can I do to make sure that they reach their goals? That's what drives me. And I hope everyone, whatever you want to do in life, I'm here to support you as well as all the other stuff. And thank you for doing what you're doing. I really appreciate your time here. Thank you.
What an inspiring story, Edward, or Eddie. Should we call you Eddie now? Well, thank you for sharing that. Very inspirational. And I'm gonna move forward with Keith over here. Share us your experience in the nursing field.
Hi, thank you guys for having me. I apologize for my lighting. I'm in my garage. It's the only quiet place I could find in my house. I have a house full of kids running around right now. So, in any case, thank you guys for having me. Thank you, Dave Kubata, for inviting me to this panel. I have a stepson that is 19 years old, and I talk his ear off all the time about going into healthcare, particularly into nursing. And I don't know that I've swayed him one way or the other, but I thought that if I'm such a large advocate for nursing with him, that maybe I could be so for some Anza students as well. So I'm glad to be here. I don't think I have a great story on how I became a nurse. I think I kind of fell into it. I zigzagged all over the place. Much like many of our other panelists, I didn't become a nurse until later on, when I was in my 30s. So I went to Cal Poly, I went to San Francisco State. I got a degree, a Bachelor of Arts in TV and film, things that totally unrelated to nursing. I majored in forestry. I thought I was going to be an audio engineer, recording people's music albums at one point. And I finally decided that I needed to buckle down and get into something that had stability and flexibility. My sister is a nurse. She's an NP now. And I spoke with her and thought that it would be a good fit for me. So I went into nursing school at Samuel Merritt, and I wasn't even sure while I was at Samuel Merritt whether nursing was for me. And even after I graduated, I also, by the way, failed my NCLEX. And I just kept on working at it and finally passed, and still was not sure that I was in the right field. Now that I've been a nurse for 10 years, I am 100% positive and convinced that this was my life's calling in addition to fatherhood. But the fulfillment that you get from being a nurse is one that I think is unparalleled with many other professions. And the only regret that I have, and it's one regret that I hear a lot of my colleagues say, is that I wish I had become a nurse sooner. I even hear doctors and many people, many of my colleagues that are not nurses, wishing that they had went into nursing. Yeah, every day when I go home, you feel good. You have a sense of accomplishment, that you did something. I really feel those moments when I talk to my patients in pre-op, right before they go into surgery. I tell them we're going to take great care of them. You could see it in their eyes, and many of them begin crying because they're scared, and they thank you, and you really feel good about what you're doing. And when you're the first person that they see when they wake up from surgery, you have that moment again. So nursing is something that I highly encourage those students that are undecided or aren't quite sure what they want to do in life yet. Nursing is a great option. You can go in so many different directions with it. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has regarding my path to getting into nursing and the job itself.
Thank you. thank you for sharing that experiences. It's never too late to become a nurse. I think it's the passion that we have, being a nurse itself. And I appreciate that, sharing that experiences to us. Since you already start talking about the ladder, I think a lot of our students are now curious to know, each one of our panels came from different background in their nursing career. One of the questions that I have for our panelists is, what educational preparation did you do and what credentials do you currently have? Because I know each one of you came from a different backgrounds. If you can share that to the entire audience, that'll be great. So I think they'll be able to answer those questions that are dying to know. Any of the panelists jump in? Yeah.
I could start since I'm unmuted. But so the question is, what credentials do we currently have, or how did we get into nursing? What did we have to do to get into nursing?
Yes, actually both, Kate. You can answer your educational preparation and credentials that you currently have.
Well, for me, I think I mentioned that I had gotten a bachelor's degree first in a Bachelor of Arts, so I really didn't have to take a whole lot of science courses to receive that degree. So for me, it was a difficult process in that to get into a nursing program, you do have to have prerequisite courses taken, including a lot of science courses, some of the basic ones, biology, chemistry, human anatomy and physiology, things like that, microbiology. And so I had to take all those courses, just like I'm sure all of the other panelists, to get into a nursing program. And it was particularly tough for me because I was working 40 hours a week with my previous job and trying to take courses wherever I could in the evening. I actually took courses at Anza. I took summer school, I took night courses, I took online courses, wherever I could to fit my schedule. But I knew that if I could get all those courses done, I could get into CMO merit and be well on my way. So it took a lot of sacrifice, but I had a lot of help from my girlfriend, who's now my wife at the time. And again, I went to Anza, I went to Foothill, I went to San Jose City College, I went to Mission, I went, to some online class over in the Midwest somewhere, just to take a pharmacology course. But you have to get those courses done to get in. But it's something that I look back on and realize it was one of the greatest moves that I ever did. So I hope that answers the question on how I got to where I am.
Yeah, so I also went to community college, and I did a lot of the same prerequisites, like I said, for medical school, and transferred them into nursing. Once I did get all of the prerequisites, I applied to every single nursing school out there. So all of the community colleges, Cal State, some private nursing programs. And then I got accepted into like 3 different ones. And then I decided with San Jose State because they were honestly the nicest. The way that I felt, I mean, I felt like it was going straight for my bachelor's degree. Just they were very helpful with everything. So I felt welcomed from the day that I got there, and it continued to be like that when I was in nursing school at San Jose State. Then after graduating, I also graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in sociology. So I have a dual major because that's what I was working on when I was going towards medical school. The reason I chose sociology was because coming from lower income family, I knew that a lot of people don't have the same access to care. We'd go to like food banks, different things like that. A lot of stuff that is common knowledge for people going to college, I had to figure it out on my own, like figuring out how to get scholarships. So just learning resources. After doing my new grad residency at Stanford, once I had the minimum amount of hours that I had to do, I sat for my national certification to be a certified expert in fetal monitoring. In nursing, you also need a whole bunch of certifications like basic life support, advanced cardiac life support, neonatal resuscitation program, which is like how to revive a newborn. Then critical care transport. I'm also a registered nurse transport specialist, which basically gave me the tools that I needed to go on the helicopter and on the ambulance to take care of patients using clinical pathways from the doctors. So basically the doctors would get the report, I'd go pick up the patient, only pregnant patients, not all sorts of patients. But I'd go pick them up. I'd be basically the doctor's eyes and hands and assess the patient, call them, give them report, get the orders, bring the patient back. If something happened, I'd call them, oh, they're doing this. Can I give this? They're doing this. What should I do? And basically I was kind of giving the care through the doctor on my own with my, I guess, the driver and my EMT. And then in labor and delivery, I realized I like teaching a lot. So what I love about Stanford is that they're always encouraging you to teach your peers and teach others. So they actually paid for my classes to become an instructor. So I'm doing the intermediate fetal monitoring, and I'm currently in the process of getting certified as an advanced fetal monitoring instructor. And then I teach in services on all sorts of things like starting IVs and other sort of clinical skills. So the good thing about nursing is there's a whole lot of different things, and you just get a specific certification to jump on in and do something else. At Stanford, there's a program called the Scopes program, which is if you're in a nurse in one field, I haven't done this, but you can actually get cross-trained to a different department because like they said, in nursing, there's a whole bunch of different areas. So what I love about nursing is that you can basically do everything. If you get tired of one thing, you learn something else and can always go back. So, I mean, those are kind of the certifications that I got and kind of what I do. And then for the clinical ladder, there's a clinical nurse 1, 2, 3, 4. I started at the beginning as a new grad, which is a clinical nurse 1. And there's this program that they have at Stanford, the Professional Nurse Development Program. It's a point system where you do different things. And then depending on how many points you get and your, whether you're an expert, proficient, or novice nurse, depending on your colleagues, you get letters of recommendation, things like that. They bid for you and you go sit in a panel and you get your status. So I'm clinical nurse 4, which is like the highest level at our hospital.
That's amazing, Selenia. That's just kudos for that. She's continuing to educate herself even at a really good position. I'm the chat monitor, by the way, and there's a lot of activity going on in the chat. So Roosevelt, I hope it's okay to just stop right here. So Maria has a few questions. One, we did talk about grades. Maybe Eddie, you want to talk about this a little bit more, but how were your grades with a full-time job, or anybody who had to juggle full-time job and having good competitive grades? Did you struggle in school at the same time? And I want to maybe couple that. Well, actually, we'll just address that question. Go ahead. Anybody who wants to answer.
Okay. Hi, Eddie again. So yes, I did struggle with grades a lot because I had 2 full-time jobs, but that's because I was meeting ends meet to a point where we were actually almost homeless 3 times. So very, very troubling for me, but that's because I let my pride get into myself. I didn't ask for help, and I should have asked for help. I should have asked for the resources from my college. I should have asked for help in general. But sometimes a little bit of yourself and that sense of pride just comes out of nowhere, and that's where I forgot. That's where I teach and tell myself every single day I have to be kind to myself. In order for myself to be kind, I have to do the right thing, right? So I got my resources. I got what I needed. I started working less. Definitely helped out a lot more because that extra burden of stress of coming to work, that extra needed stress, and sometimes you bring it home too. And when you bring it home, you can't really study well. So that's the reason why I struggle with my grades. So a lot of it, when I stopped working as much, definitely helped out my grades. What helped me was developing ways on how to study well, like applying it, utilizing more resources than one, not just learning that everything is black and white. You actually have to learn, apply, and educate, and that way you can actually encompass it. Because as nurses, we just don't give things. We always ask ourselves, why are we giving it? Is it safe to give? And et cetera. And that's what really helped me become like the C student to all of a sudden now I know what I'm doing. I feel safe and confident, and that really raised my grades. And it definitely helped transform and helped me finally pass my NCLEX. So that's just speaking on my behalf.
Okay, thank you, Eddie. Taylor also has a question. Amelia, do you mind addressing this one? So he feels a little bit as an older student at 27 finishing his prerequisites. How do you handle feeling like you started too late? And then,
Did you say he's 20? This Taylor's 27?
yep.
All right.
When I was at that age, I did feel a little too old to still be in school too. So,
Well, you know, by the time I got to nursing school, I think like many other people, I had already had a bachelor's degree in public health. And I was actually so far from my degree, I had to repeat my science. So it's not just if you've never taken it, if you haven't taken your sciences and your math and all that within a certain amount of time frame, and really understand it's kind of a gift to you. You don't want to have taken biology 10 years ago and think you're going to pass nursing school, because you're not. So the prerequisite time frame is really meant for you as a student to be able to digest the material, internalize it, understand what you're learning. The thing I would say about the age, and I'll get it, but nursing school, you have to know that it will run at a pace that can often be very unforgiving, and you need to be ready for it. And all the panelists are giving great advice in the sense of know your resources, you know, mount up your team, you know, get your ohana together because you're gonna need the help. I was older than 27 when I went to nursing school. I did have some background in EMS. So I think the good thing about being of age in school is that you have a maturity and an ease with people that maybe some people don't. There are advantages to being mature. You have life experience. You can use this tool along with every other tool. So there are ways to really look at your age and your experience as an advantage. Oftentimes with age, there are other responsibilities, and even some of our younger panelists had these tremendous life responsibilities. I did have a child, I did work full time. I taught ACLS, PALS. I was an instructor for many of the certs that Selenia was talking about that people need. So I think like any other student, when you come to nursing school, you have to really want it, because the material and the program will weed you out if you don't. So it's really identify where your heart is. And once your heart finds your feet, just tell yourself, this is the way it's going to be. We're going to pass. We're going to do well. The way I took to learning, because I did have a full-time job and it wasn't, you know, the only option for me. And I think I think Keith touched on it too. When you learn something, learn it for the material. I would worry less about learning for the test. And I know every program you look at, there's a lot of high stress, but when you can really embrace something and learn it for the material, then hopefully your grades produce. But you really, when you're a nurse, you have to be able to produce the action of care for somebody. And there's lots of rules and lots of people and lots of demand and lots of stress, but when you know it, not just produce it for a test, but when you know it, you can walk in a room and know you can care for somebody else. And that's really what's important. As far as the age, don't worry about it. There are other ways that that's an actual advantage. And know when you are done with nursing school, there are advantages to you having that maturity and being done. So that's all I can say.
Thank you. And then one more question for Maria. Where would you get your certs for transport? Which maybe, I think Selenia, did you say that?
Yeah, I actually responded in the chat.
thank you.
Basically, I did all my training through Stanford. So first of all, they kind of have to choose you. You need a minimum of 5 years working at Stanford in our unit to be considered. Then you do some ride-alongs and fly-alongs where you kind of work with another transport specialist that does it. And then you sit for the test, which they give you. So some of them are through the institution that are HealthStream. So I'm a little bit different than the flight nurses that are for the general hospital that take care. They're like really top-notch. They do every single kind of patient. So I am a transport specialist only for labor and delivery when I did it.
Thank you. And
So,
one
yeah.
question that's not on the chat, but everybody's mentioning and I don't know about it is you guys keep talking about this exam, and all I know is about MCATs, but you're talking about a Nexel exam. Can somebody describe what that is? And like
The NCLEX?
that one. What is that and how much studying has to be done, or, tell us just a little bit about that. Yes, the next what? How do you say that?
I'll give a brief from what I understand what it is. The NCLEX is the State Registered Board of Nursing examination that essentially your work experience is preparing you for. So it's not a bachelor's degree, it is the state certification, and you have to pass that in order to achieve your licensure. And in order to prepare for that, you need to participate in a certified program. So the state has to approve your program. You have to have a number of certain hours, and you have to pass the test. And the NCLEX is kind of unique in itself, and in the sense that it is weighted, and maybe I'm not saying this right, and hopefully one of the other panelists can come in, where the more questions you answer, if you answer correctly, your test goes a little bit faster. And the more questions you don't answer correctly, you get more and more questions. So not only is it a tremendous amount of material, actually taking the test is kind of stressful. So if anyone else wants to.
Yeah, so basically if you go through nursing school and you do all of the prerequisites to becoming a licensed nurse, they will send your transcripts when you're finished with the nursing program to the state that you want to apply to. Every state has a different licensing board, and there's a few that are different. And so basically they send the stuff to the board, and then they review it and they say, yes, you qualify to take for the test. They will send you a letter that's authorization to test, an ATT. And then from there, you go ahead and you schedule your test. And so it could be a minimum of, I think, 60 questions, like they said. So if you answer them all right, your screen will go kind of crazy and turn off, and then you'll freak out like, oh my God, did I totally bomb or did I pass? And then if you're kind of like in the middle where they're figuring out, oh, I think they can get their licensure or not, the test can go up. And I don't know what the maximum number is, but it could be hours or it could be a few minutes. And you have to pass this. So even though you get a degree in nursing, you're not a registered licensed nurse until you pass the NCLEX. So if you're an LVN, there's an NCLEX for LVN. If you're an RN, it's an NCLEX for RN. If you're an MSN, there's a different one there, and it depends on your level of study. But basically you go to school, you take the classes, they authorize you to test, and then you have to pass it to become registered.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you for both of you. Okay, Rosafel, would you like to go with the next question? I think we're caught up.
Yeah, no worries. I think we have a couple more, and then we're going to open up to more questions later on at the end. I think we're on the right track over here, because my next question is really about your typical day now. But I do have one quick question. I think I have somebody put a chat here for a personal question about what is an NP? I think, Adrian, if you want to answer that very briefly, what is an NP that we've been hearing from Keith, and to your background, can you explain what is the difference between the nurse practitioner and your previous background as a registered nurse? Thank you.
Sure. And I actually am fortunate enough to still work and practice in both fields. So I still practice as a registered nurse in working with diverse populations that have several various complex chronic conditions at Kaiser as a case manager. And then I work also as a nurse practitioner, as a provider at clinics. So after you complete your nursing degree, you can go on and pursue a master's in nursing for various reasons, whether it be for clinical leadership or other positions within hospitals or clinics. But you can also train to be a nurse practitioner, which is an advanced practice nurse, which is an additional 2 to 3 years training, depending on your specialty. And this affords you the opportunity to be able to also sit for an additional type of boards like the NCLEX and another stressful little journey. And then after that, you're able to see patients in different settings, whether it be your specialty is pediatrics, family, I have colleagues that now work in transplant. So it's basically advanced practice in nursing, and you're able to prescribe medications and see patients as a primary care provider. And this is a role that is very important nowadays too, in helping to fill the void that we have in where we don't have enough primary care providers out there, and let alone not enough bilingual and those of color. that represent our community. So it's really important that we're filling these voids also to be able to provide care for our patients, so that we reflect the populations that we're serving. I hope.
Yes, excellent. I think that's pretty clear. As you can see, our panelists have very diverse background, and they go in different field of nursing. We have an instructor, and then we have an acute care instructor as well, who specialize in that field. And with all of you having this different background, I think my last question here before we move on to the general questions from the audience is, what is your typical work schedule? Are you working 12-hour shift, 10-hour shift, 8 hours a day, 3 days per weekend? Maybe this is something you can share to our audience, and at least they have some ideas. What is really a typical work schedule for each of your background?
So if I may, I'll just I'll go with this one too. So I'm a little bit of a workaholic right now. It's been really busy. As mentioning, I have 2 jobs. So I typically work anywhere between an 8-hour or a 10-hour day, depending on the job that I'm at. Like today, my community clinic, I was here. I start at 8:30 and I finish my day at 7. So it depends. I work usually 6 days a week, 2 or 3 weeks out of the month. So it's a busy schedule. Like I said, between 8 to 10 hours. I envy those that work 12-hour shifts for a couple days a week, get several days off, which I'm sure some other people will mention. But mine is a typical, 8 to 10 hour day, 4 to 5 to 6, and that's my choosing, right? I don't have to work that many days, but because of what I'm doing and what I love, and just that I'm able to do that right now, and I want to pay off bills and loans, I'm taking a little bit of a sacrifice.
Anyone else want to share the work schedule?
I'll share mine. Sure. I work 4/10s, and that means I work 4 days a week at 10-hour shifts. But I think I mentioned before that part of the reason why I went into nursing initially is because of the flexibility. And so I have the option, if I want to, I can do 5/8s, which means I'm 5 days a week and work 8 hours. So I would get off a little bit earlier, but I do have to work Monday through Friday. I can work 3/12s if I want to. That would be 3 days a week, 12-hour shifts. They're long days, but if you could imagine working 3 days a week and having more days off than you're actually working, it's a great option. I have coworkers that do that, and they go, they schedule themselves to work on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then they're off Thursday, Friday. They're off the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and then they schedule themselves for the following week to be off on Monday, Tuesday. So they have 6 days off straight, and they go on vacations somewhere, and they don't have to use a single day of PTO. Yeah, I tried to get that schedule, but it wasn't available to me at the moment. But you can start at 6:45 in the morning. You can start at 9 in the morning. You can start at 11 in the morning. We have people that work in the evening, people that work graveyards. There's all sorts of flexibility, and so you choose what works best for you. I tend to notice that the younger people work a little bit later in the day, and the people that have kids tend to work early in the day so they can get off a little bit earlier. But at the different stages in your life, from when you're young to when you have kids to when your kids are out of the house and in college, I think you can adjust your work schedule to fit what works best for you. So that's one great thing about nursing, is the schedules that you can create for yourself.
Excellent, thank you. I think it looks like you covered the whole aspect of that scheduling system. I think I'm gonna refer back to Yvette, because it looks like we have quite a few questions in our chat room. So go ahead, Yvette.
So I have a question from John, and John is asking, my question is a two-parter. What kind of bedside manner is most beneficial for difficult patients? And how do frontline nurses balance maintaining an effective bedside manner with the stress from dealing with difficult patients? All right, Eddie, go for it.
Right, so That's a very good question because on my unit, we deal with a lot of behavioral patients. We're also the acute care for the elderly. So a lot of our patients sundown at a certain time. We get a lot of confused patients. We get a lot of psych patients as well. My first and best, the most recommended one that I have is empathy. I always like to empathize. If I was in that patient's shoes, how would I feel? Would I be angry as well during their time of need? It's a very important tool to have because we can be judgmental, but we have to be empathetic to their cause. Why are they here in the hospital? What can I do to make sure that they reach their realistic goals? If you sometimes be a little bit empathetic or really empathetic with them, your judgment and everything you have really goes away. Sit down, talk with them, have that two-way open communication, and also establish boundaries. That's the most important thing as well as a nurse. We can't solve everything, but we can do the best to our ability and know that it's just not us. We're an interdisciplinary team. We have case managers, social workers, we have physical therapists, occupational therapists, the whole team that can help us to help the patient during their time of need. So kind of think about those things, especially like wonderful terms they teach you in nursing school, like veracity, having that truthfulness to those patients. Be truthful and be honest with them because we're here for them. And that would be the best advice I would give.
Thank you, Eddie. Chelsea has a question, and this is a question that maybe multiple people can answer, but what is it like being a nurse during this pandemic, and how do you maintain a work-life balance? Who wants to jump in? Selenia, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's an awesome question. To be honest with you, when the pandemic started, I didn't think it was very serious. I thought it was just like the flu and wasn't very well informed, obviously. I was actually at a medical conference in Hawaii while the shutdowns and everything were coming back, and I got the last flight back here. And then when I started seeing the patients, so I'm labor and delivery, right? So we get patients as young as like 16 to 56, believe it or not. But we started to get a couple of patients that were pretty sick. And my brother is a respiratory therapist in Los Angeles as well. And he was like, oh my gosh, these patients are getting flash pneumonia, getting really, sick. So I went from thinking it wasn't a big thing to being really, really scared. And so emotionally, it was very stressful for myself and for my family because as the patients would come in, you just really weren't sure who had it and who didn't. And when I had a patient in the ICU, since I'm labor and delivery, she's pregnant, we had to float over there because no one else can monitor their baby. So I'd go into the ICU and I'd see the sickest of the sick. And of course, we're Stanford, right? So a lot of the times outer hospitals sometimes didn't know how to deal with it yet before we came out with the policies and protocols. And so they would send them to Stanford. And so we kind of saw a lot of stuff. When the pandemic started to get really bad around May, we had one of our people called Kelly Brennan, and she started doing the COVID pathway. Okay, so we're gonna test these patients when they come in, symptomatic, asymptomatic, stat test, rapid test, different stuff. If they have these symptoms, this is how long they need to be isolated. So basically it was everyone was figuring it out. But then like for me in my family life, I was sometimes scared. I had to self-isolate twice when I had an unknown exposure, when someone was negative or we didn't know what they were. And then I had finished working and then I found out, oh, so you've been exposed to this patient. You took care of them for X many hours and you're here. And so then I'd be like, oh my God, do I have COVID? Like everything that I thought of went this. I actually was off of work for a while. I ended up going to the ED once because I had a big migraine. I think like the stress that I had made me have a migraine. And then I started like throwing up profusely and they sent me to the ED. I was negative, but I was like, oh, what if I haven't turned positive yet? So it really does mess with your mind. Now that we're like over a year into it, I'm just like, okay, COVID patient, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to protect myself. I basically am more calm in the sense where I know how to deal with it. We have a COVID delivery, a vaginal delivery. It's a huge thing with the NICU and the way that we do surgeries too. So if we have to do a C-section, there's a specific OR that we use, a whole policy, the way that we transfer them from one unit to another. I could talk about it all day. I'm not going to bore you. But now it's just kind of like you're still scared, but you know what to do. And it's not as scary because you know that these measures work. Your N95, your hand hygiene, you're changing everything. But mentally it is exhausting. Sometimes I come home and I do still cry about stuff. I'm overwhelmed, and my husband knows when I have a bad day because I come in and I'm just like, I just need a shower, and I take a hot shower, and sometimes I just cry in the shower and I'm like, this is so hard. And then now that we got more units of the vaccines, I'm actually volunteering at the COVID clinic. I'm still getting paid, but on my days off, because I work part-time, I only work 2 days a week, I go and I give vaccinations at Cisco on Wednesdays. So, yeah.
Wow, that's great. Anybody else want to follow with that?
Just really quickly, validating what Selenia said, sometimes we have our time when we need to have our moments to just let it out. I think I found a lot of support within my Latinx nursing organization that Sandra was a part of as well, because we really lean on each other, and we would have moments where we would come together on Zoom on a Sunday, pray together, and just vent and just talk and just, how are you guys doing? Let's check in. And it really, really, really helped us during some of the peak times last year, because it was a really scary time. And a lot of us, went through, loss of family, loved ones, and then colleagues and loved ones. So I think finding your source of support and remembering to check in, because you're human. I mean, it's hard. You leave the workplace, but you have that weight on you still. You're still thinking about cases and things that happen. So I think allowing yourself to be vulnerable and to remind yourself that you have to reach out, you have to talk to others. I think that's something that really helped me. And I feel I've gone so much closer to my colleagues, my peers, in nursing, because we've been there through each other. We've gone through it together, and I think this is something we're never going to forget, and hopefully we'll continue to support each other for whatever else is to come in the future. But please take the time to check in on yourself and reach out to others. And if you don't feel like you have that support system or that community, look at us, we're here, reach out to us, we're here to support.
Thank you, Adrian. So I have Christopher with a question asking about living, I guess, in an expensive area. What is advice? Do you work during going through a program, or, sorry, let me just read it. If you follow the advice of not working during the program, or should I expect to have enough wiggle room to work at least before clinicals start? So I guess it's another kind of balancing. During nursing school, should they be working at the same time? Have you guys done that? Is it hard to balance work and school? Amelia?
Yeah, I'll take that. You have a very forgiving situation. At the time I was contract working, so I was teaching, so it's easy for me to work around some of the classes and things. Ideally, I wouldn't recommend it. And of course, there are issues of necessity that every person has. But when I talk to students and patients who are interested in anything, it's really a time of transition. And if you have the opportunity and the resources, even for something like, gosh, I have childcare set, or people are going to come. Sometimes students tell me, yeah, my neighbors came and they delivered food twice a week, and study sessions, and nursing school isn't just about the time you're in class. You will spend 2 to 3 times more studying, and you'll be with study groups, and there is a tremendous amount, and the speed that you need to ingest knowledge and be able to practice it is going to require a tremendous amount of energy. Now, every one of these amazing people have their own story. Many of them worked through nursing school. It is possible. It is not something that I would encourage someone to do unless they really had to. I do think maybe it is a time you deserve to be engaged at whatever level you can be engaged. And so, yeah, if you have to work, you'll figure it out. But I think that, I worked 20 hours a week through nursing school, and even with help. So I was a single parent and did it even with help, but it is something that you want to put some forethought to if you're thinking about going through nursing school. How can I set up my ducks where it's the easiest it can be? And I think Eddie is really vocal about that and about asking for help. And this is the time before you get there to ask your friends and family and people who you want to bring on this journey with you. You deserve that. Ask them for help because you're going to need it.
Two quick points that I can add to Amelia's part. Definitely, I think, you know, if you can afford or can somehow find a way to not work during some of those crucial times, it's preferred. I did an accelerated nursing program for the first year. So I did not work. I saved money and I just did not work because I knew that I just had to focus 100% on that portion. Once I was in my master's in nurse practitioner program, I did work about 20 hours a week. The hardest thing I did, but I had to because I had to be able to pay for bills. But also keep in mind, there's a lot of programs out there. If you want to work in a fairly qualified health center, if you want to commit yourself to community clinics or different populations, there are loan repayment programs. I'm currently applying to one right now since I work at a fairly qualified health center where they help you pay back some of your loans. There's some other nursing core programs too. So there's also opportunities to help you pay some of that back depending on what you commit yourself to working with or for after you.
Thank you, Keith. Keith.
I'd like to respond too, just because some people are privately messaging me and asking me questions, and I told them I'd respond publicly to everybody, but it's around the same topic anyway, about whether you can work and go to school, and like everyone said, it is difficult to do, and I did not work when I worked when I was taking my prerequisites. Like I said, I was taking night courses, but when I got into Samuel Merritt, it was the accelerated program, meaning it was 1 year. So everything was kind of jam packed in, and I was going to school or doing my clinical rounds 7 days a week. And so I did not work during that time. And, you know, everyone has their own financial situation. For me, what I did, just to share it, is I took a large loan because I needed money for living expenses. And I knew that I couldn't work. As a matter of fact, Samuel Merritt had told me that people that tried to work while going through the accelerated program would either end up quitting their job once they found out how hard it was to do, or they would do poorly in nursing school and maybe not make it. Now, I don't think that's necessarily true, because I do know people that were able to work and do the accelerated program, and it was really tough for them. But I decided just to take out a loan, and I'm still paying that loan, just to be completely transparent. But for me, I still look back on it and look at it as the best decision that I've ever done. I think, you know, I don't want to get into all the details of my finances, but I'm still nursing. I do well enough with nursing that even after I pay my monthly obligations to my loans, that I have enough to do what I want to do. I can live in the Bay Area. I can still, I can raise a family. We can take vacations here and there. And again, I'm still paying off a rather large loan, but that's just my reality. I just wanted to be, you know, honest with it. And I see that someone is asking if they can contact us privately later, and I'm open to that. I don't know what the best way is to share a contact, but I know that for me, when I was about to go into nursing school, I had tons of questions about costs and how much things cost and how much money I needed and how much money was I going to make when I got out of school. And those are very important questions that I feel like are sometimes really hard to figure out and get out of people. How much money do you make? How much money do you make here or there? And you know, I'm happy to answer those questions to people if they wanted to contact me directly. And someone had brought up loan forgiveness programs. My sister did that. I mentioned she was a nurse as well. She's a nurse practitioner now, but she worked for the San Francisco VA, and they paid like 75% of her loans back. And the only thing she had to do was work for the VA for like 2 or 3 years without leaving or something like that. And she's like, okay, that's easy. I'll work for you guys for 3 years if you pay back 75% of my loan. So there are ways around it and things you can do. And again, if you know people want to go find out more from you and go into deeper details regarding it, then I'm open to that.
Thank you, Keith. Maybe the best thing, if you feel comfortable, panelists, is to put your email in the chat for now, and then that way other students can see it. I do have like 2 more questions at least. One from Sean. What advice would you give current high school seniors or just younger college students going to junior colleges who want to be a nurse? What are some kind of tips you wish somebody can tell you when you were just starting out?
I would tell a high school, if I can just say one thing, know what the requirements are and kind of look at it on a map. So when you know, and any program has a certain way they lay out classes, junior colleges, community colleges are a great bargain for a lot of this training. So a lot of pathways, you know, this, like Samuel Mart is an excellent program. And it is, especially if you want to do this quick path and get it done, the sacrifice to that is it's a little bit more expensive. So just decide kind of what your options are. No matter what program you look at, and you look at a junior college specifically, know when your A, B, and C biology start. If it only starts in the fall, then you have to register and kind of map it out, work with an academic advisor. So you have a realistic point of view of what the program looks like, how long it's going to take. Go to the informational meetings. And the informational meetings are super important anyway, because no matter what program you're looking at, if you decide, hey, I'm going to take this route or that route, you want to be able to attend a school that has a legitimate stance in the field, that can offer you clinicals. They have actually instructors that go to the hospitals and offer clinicals, and they can give you the required experience to set you up to sit for the NCLEX. And if I can just briefly correct myself, I think maybe I said the wrong thing about the NCLEX. It is actually a national test. Okay, I just happen to be registered in California, but that is the test for everybody. But what you want to do is make sure your school is legit, so you don't waste all this time and all this money on something that you know, won't take you to the end, to the fruition that you want. So really look at the programs. Look at the cost. It is a big deal, you know, to decide what your commitment's going to be. And especially for junior college, I think it's a great transition for young people or people just entering to really see if that fits and make a program kind of pathway and look at it and decide if you're ready start to finish. That's just my thought.
That's
And
great.
if I may too, there's no going around it. It's an impacted field. Even though we need so many nurses, it's still hard to get into school sometimes. Classes are impacted. You're gonna hear it all. You're gonna hear your grades aren't good enough. But if you truly want to be in this field, then you will find your way. If doors A, B, and C are closed, then you go look for E, F, G. You know, I was very disappointed sometimes to see some of my mentees and even my own family who are pursuing nursing being told by counselors, etc., like, you know, maybe you should pursue something else. Maybe you should look at a backup. But, you know, if you really want to, especially now with the beauty of online classes, you know, if you need to take classes, somebody mentioned they took classes, you know, at some other state from home. And I remember I went to 3 different junior colleges in 1 quarter just to do prerequisites because they were so impacted. If you truly want to be in this career, it might take you a while, but you'll get there. You can get there. Just be patient and make sure that you're creative in the way that you know, look for those different programs, classes that you need. Don't let 1 or 2 doors shutting in your face, you know, be the definition for you not pursuing what you want to do. You can do it.
What an excellent advice for both Amelia and Adrienne. Thank you. We have a couple more and then we'll transition. So one question over here is from Maria. Where do you look for these scholarships? How many of you have done or applied scholarship before, and what are the resources you can advise to our students right now? Maybe I'll refer this question to Debbie later on. You want to answer very briefly, Debbie? Because I know.
Sure.
Go ahead. Go for it.
Good evening, everyone. So for those just getting started, my advice would be to make certain that you visit the financial aid office. things will be developed according to your individual circumstance. So visit the financial aid office for other opportunities. There are many grants and scholarships available. Also, I saw another question in the chat from a high school student. Shout out to all my high school students who are here this evening. Yay! We have a lot of seniors with us. I would start with the counseling office and also the recruiter for whatever nursing program it is you're going to attend. Just like Amelia said, to make sure that you know what the requirements are. Working with a counselor, that counselor can assist you with doing an educational plan to map out your classes so that when you're taking the prerequisites, you don't line those classes up so that you overwhelm yourself. So visit the financial aid office and find a counselor that you are going to work with to help you navigate the system.
Thank you, Deborah. That's very helpful. I figured it's the best question for you right now. I think one of the last questionnaires is, do you have any professional organization that the students can start attending? I know each one of you again have different backgrounds in different fields. What organization as a student you can start recommending for these students who want to be a nurse someday, want to be a nurse practitioner, for example, or EMT background with emergency. So any professional organization.
So thank you. Adriana, I noticed you're putting some information up. Just to touch back really quickly on the scholarship, I'm part of a foundation that has a scholarship in honor of my Auntie Modesta, who passed away from breast cancer. But we award scholarships every year to keep her memory alive for students who are in the health-related fields, who are making an impact in some way or are going through a journey that's related to cancer. So I put the website up. I'm a part of that foundation, and we usually give the scholarship in the fall. So just keep an eye on it. It's likeasupernova.com. It's a supernova foundation. It's called Modesta Spirit and Courage Scholarship Fund. That's one. As far as organizations, as noted, I'm part of the local chapter of the National Association of Hispanic Nurses. And there's a lot of different organizations you can join. You can join local, your schools a lot of times have local chapters. There are national organizations you can start joining. You can look at, there's organizations for MPs, for case managers in nursing, for critical care nurses. Just do searches out there, and they have a lot of times student memberships too, and those are really great for you to even start networking, etc., early on in your career.
Thank you, Adrian. It looks like we're heading to the closing of our panelists now, and I appreciate everybody. Before we close this panel, any last words of wisdom from any of our panelists? Any advice you can provide to our future students who are pursuing their nursing career?
I do want to say a couple things really quickly, because when it was mentioned that there's a lot of high school students on this call and how they can get involved. I was reminded that while walking around the operating room, my place of work in the summer months, we often have high school students walking around, being able to pop in from operating room to operating room and just be a fly on the wall and observe. And it's a great experience for them, because where else do you see a 16-year-old able to just hop into an OR and see brain surgery? And so I don't know a whole lot about the program, but I did do a quick Google search, and I Googled Stanford Healthcare High School Program, and a few things popped up, and it looks like the first thing that popped up was a high school summer program, surgery, Stanford Medicine. I wish I had more information, but I think if you just Google keywords like Stanford Healthcare High School Program, you might be able to find kind of a summer internship that I know that we do offer, because again, I do see high school students walking around in the summer. That might be a great opportunity for you guys. And lastly, in closing, I do want to address one more time that there's so much on this chat about age and going back to school. And for me, I can empathize with that, because I did go back to school to be a nurse in my 30s, and to my surprise, there were many people that were older than me in their 40s and 50s that were in nursing school. And I hear all the time from a lot of my colleagues that maybe aren't nurses, but are aspiring nurses that think that they're too old to go back to school. And it's very, I don't know if heartbreaking is the right word, but it's sad for me to hear. And I always tell them my experience and the people that I went to school with, because it's not too late for you guys to go back to school. You're not too old to become a nurse. And it's the greatest move that I've ever done. And I'm in my 40s now, and I look back and I said, you know, what was the big deal? So what? I was in my 30s when I was in nursing school. And I mean, I'm so glad that I did it. And I don't think, you know, the ages that people put out there on the chat, I don't think you guys should be worried about it, at least for those people. I really don't think that should be an issue for you guys. It was, again, the greatest move I ever did. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, what Keith said. So.
I think Eddie.
Oh, yes. Hello, so I have to leave soon, but my recommendation is to all of you that want to start nursing, volunteer at a hospital, see how it is, have empathy, right? See how it is to be there and see these patients at their greatest times or even the worst times, right? Also seek a counselor, see what you can do to get your foot in the door, right? Also, don't give up hope. Have a great support system, right? You know, also when I kind of think of things, you know, the word impossible, right? Oh my God, it's impossible to go to nursing school. There's so many people, but also, you know, it also spells out I'm possible, right? And also by the greatest quote that I did by through the Dalai Lama, if we just start off our day with one small positive thought, the rest will follow. We have to be positive, right? Although there's negative things in the world, let's be positive about things, right? And that's what creates goals for ourselves. So be kind to yourself again. And then I look forward to hopefully seeing you at Anza College and in the nursing program and with me here in clinical and instruction. Have a great day, everyone. I actually have to leave myself. So please contact me through my email if you need anything. And thank you, panel and Roosevelt and everyone else. Take care.
Thank you, Eddie. Adrian, any last words?
Just, you know, keep focused. Like I said, don't let anybody tell you can't get there. If a door closes, like they say, another one will open. Please reach out to us if you ever need that, you know, just push, that motivation. Because I know I definitely needed it along my journey, and it's helped me get to where I'm at today. I also want to give a shout out to my colleague, Daniela Vargas. She's currently finishing her DMP, or Doctorate of Nursing practice, and she's giving some great information here about DACA-related scholarships chat room. So please give me the info she's sharing right now too. And just thank you everybody for being here today, and I wish you all the best in your
Okay. Again, to our panelists, you are all essential workers because you deserve the fundamental respect for the human dignity and intuition for patients' needs. So you are all essential workers. Thank you for all the holistic approach and the vision that you have for our students today. We truly appreciate you. So I'm going to transfer this over to Yvette for our affirmations for our program.
Yes, I believe Deborah is going to help me out with that. Deborah, mind taking over here?
All right, great. I didn't know if you were here or not. So thank you again for being here with us. And this is the time in the program that we like to invite our community to look at the bottom of your screen and use the reactions button on your Zoom screen to give us some highlights of how you felt the program went tonight. Did you learn some things? Was there some beneficial information? I see those hearts and hands, hand clapping, all the love. Thank you again. We are very glad that you were here this evening. And I do want to shout out my high school students. Some of them were with me on Saturday for the Anza College open house. So thank you again for spending your evening with us. And then I want to invite you to be with us with Planning Future Health Careers panels. You can volunteer to be on the panel. I also like to share some resources. We talked about that a lot. And then I want to give you a little tidbit of information. If you look in the chat and you see those 3 little dots, you can save the chat because there's lots of good information in there. All those resources about the Stanford High School program. I used to teach high school and I did refer some high school students to that program. So if you're a high school student getting started, that program allows you an opportunity to practice being in college. You will actually live during the summer on the campus of Stanford. So there's great information in there. If you are on your way to De Anza College, I'd like to invite you to join the Medical Outreach Association, which is one of our student clubs for students who are contemplating careers in healthcare and they haven't yet decided what path they're going to take. It's a great club. So once you arrive at De Anza, make sure, in addition to financial aid and visiting a counselor, that you join the Medical Outreach Association. Other resources, my colleague who had to leave just now, Dr. Yvette Campbell, is in charge of the STEM Success Program. I am the recruiter for the nursing program, so you can visit me as well. There's the Student Success Center where we have all of our tutors. So if you enroll in a class and you find that you're experiencing some challenges, reach out sooner rather than later. The Student Success Program is where you can get a tutor for any subject. We also have our Career Technical Education Department, and some of the panelists and our moderator tonight are from the Student Health Center. So Dr. Roosevelt and Amelia, if you're a student at De Anza and you need to seek some health services, you can visit them there. Also, I want to shout out again the National Association of Hispanic Nurses. I do believe that they have student memberships. So I would look them up if you're a Latinx student. If you want to find out about some other affinity nursing associations, I can provide you with that information. And I believe that my email was in the chat also. So again, thank you for being with us this evening. And without any further ado, does anyone else have any contributions to add before we close it out? Adriana, would you like to have some?
Yeah, I would just like to make the announcement for the next event. I'm going to go ahead and upload that announcement flyer on the chat. It is for May 12th, 5 to 7 p.m. around this time as well. And in that panel, we are going to focus on professionals with advanced clinical degrees. So please do save the date, mark it on your calendars, 5 to 7, Wednesday, May 12th. We would love to have you join us, especially if you're considering those more advanced degrees and going up in the clinical or medical career ladder. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ms. Deborah. I'm going to go ahead and do.
Okay, is it back on me again? All righty, I would like to take a moment if I can. Lulu, would you like to unmute yourself?
Hi.
Hi, it's Miss Deborah. Do you feel comfortable sharing with the group what you shared with me?
Sure, yeah. So I'm pursuing nursing. I'm enrolled for the spring quarter. I'm gonna, try to knock out my prereqs, and I'm pretty much doing this because Sandra, she is my best friend's mom and she paved the way. And I remember when she started at De Anza, and my friend Sharon and I were just in our 20s and trying to find ourselves in that whole thing. And Sandra really just, I'm coming from like a medical device background. I was laid off and I felt so lost and I had no idea what to do. And when Sandra got sick, it really kind of opened up my eyes as to what she was doing. And I had no idea that like nursing was so broad. So I'm just so grateful for her for setting, the example for us. And yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you for sharing with us. And Sean has his hand up, and then that'll be our last speaker. Sean?
Hey, I asked a question earlier in the chat But of course, as soon as you guys got to answering my question, my internet totally crapped out and I just could not reconnect to Zoom. So I was wondering if the recording of this meeting will be emailed to us or if I could have it emailed to me.
Sure.
You're back on. Are you able to save the chat with those 3 dots that I mentioned?
Oh,
I think we answered his question, so he wanted to hear the answer to his question.
Your question was about financial aid, Sean?
No, mine was about going to nursing school out of high school.
Oh, yes.
Okay, I'm going to answer that question for you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
That's a great question, Sean. And what I would like for you to do as a graduating senior is to make sure that the college that you're attending, if you've decided on which nursing program you will attend, that you make certain that you know and understand what the prerequisite requirements are.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first step. The second step is I would like for you to connect with a counselor so that that counselor can assist you with mapping out your coursework for the prerequisite classes and help you with your entrance into the nursing program.
Mm-hmm.
Third step would be to make sure that you make friends with the people in financial aid. There are many grants and scholarships available for pre-nursing students and nursing students as well, people who are actually in the program, as well as other opportunities based on your family income. So those are the 3 things that I recommend for high school students. If you're shopping for school, go directly to the horse's mouth. Don't listen to your friends with them telling you, oh, they said they would take the T's, and then you get there and find out that that's not the exam that's acceptable. Go directly to that institution, to that program, and speak with someone who can answer your questions factually. And we don't want to get our information via the grapevine. You're going to go to the source.
Mm-hmm.
And go class of 2021.
Oh, also, Sean, if you, I just chatted with you, but if you send Adriana right here, Oloni, your private message her, your email, she could probably send you the Zoom recording. And then also Helen Pang, who's one of our career counselors at Anza College, she also put in the chat her email that you can actually set up an appointment with her. And yes, sorry, I had to step away for a minute, but I'm back.
All right, thank you everybody for hanging around for my question. My apologies about that.
No, it's okay.
This is what the event is for.
Helen, would you like to plug yourself?
Oh, sure. And then also I had a student ask, what is the, I know Deborah, you could probably answer this. What is the waiting period to get into the Anza nursing program?
Currently, our waiting period, we're on the quarter system. And so once you apply to the program, you are admitted to our wait list. And it is 3 quarters in length, which is 1 school term from September to June. So once you've applied, you've submitted your application and you've been accepted, it's a 3-quarter wait period. And I do information meetings. I just did one this past Friday, and there are some people on here that were there last Friday. So we do talk in detail about prerequisite requirements, what pre-nursing assessment exam is required for you to take in order to be eligible for the program. So check in with us, check out our website for all the announcements. My email is there. You can schedule an individual meeting with me and we can talk about your specific situation.
Adriana, do you mind putting your email in the chats just so that folks can email you if they want a Zoom link? I see Deborah Taylor also has, thank you Alejandra, her email in there too if you have specific questions. So our positions here are to help you. We're trying to help you succeed. You've heard a lot from the panelists that a lot of zigzagging and needing resources. So we're here. So we're here late at night to make sure that we answer your questions and we're helping and guiding you. So please feel free to check us out. There you go. All right. Well,
Can I just add one thing
Amelia,
to
go
the
ahead.
last thing that Deborah said? I don't know if it's still accurate, so maybe Deborah can help me out. But oftentimes, as people are climbing up the waiting list, they either accept a position or they don't. So even though the term is, the waiting list may be 3/4, sometimes, at least in my experience, I jumped up on the waiting list depending on the people above me. So when you're ready, right, when you're ready to join the program and your prereqs are done and you passed all of Deborah's fine points, just be ready. So, and we're ready to have you. So jump in on the information meeting sooner than later. And again, just to stress, if you're interested in a school, just as Deborah said, go directly to that school and get the information that you need.
Yes, and I'd also like to add, if you're a student, prospective student, yeah, please feel free to reach out to any counselor. You can reach out to me. Tom Nguyen is a counselor for Biological and Health Sciences Division, also MPS counselors, Math Performance Success counselors, or any other counselors. We would be really happy to help you plan your educational journey.
Thank you. Well, with that, I think this was a successful event. And like Anna mentioned, we have one more coming up on May 12th. That's going to be hopefully centered. I mean, it's going to be centered around, what is the exact title? Ariana, you had that better than I did. But we invited doctors. I believe we're trying to get a physician assistant to come in and talk about their journeys. So we hope that you can make it, and we're really excited that you're here. So thank you for spending the night with us. It's nice to have you. Thank you. Ray.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Nice to see you again, Deborah. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah, is it Sarah? Is there a time period that we should complete prerequisites if we're interested in completing the nursing program at Anza? Deborah?
Sarah.
Here's the question. I'll put it in for everybody.
The music came on and I didn't know what was going to happen. Sarai, we are flexible with the prerequisite requirement. Your science classes are the most important, that they have a recency requirement and they have to have been completed within 7 years of application to the program. If you'd like to have a Zoom appointment with me, just email me and tell me what the best time is, what your availability is, and then I can sit with you to go over your specific questions if you'd like to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. That was our last question. Great.